In my past segment, just a few minutes ago, I talked about a liberal who said they were going to be voting for Donald Trump, and the reason was he's actually the most liberal candidate running. And she was right. Her name was Carrie Smith. She was correct. You look at Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, they're not particularly liberal. And Trump isn't necessarily in the colloquial sense as we know it, but classically, yeah, he is. He supports free speech and individualism, and he wants to defend the people, the American people's right to work, and there's a lot of good things about him. Well, I would like to show you your future under Joe Biden. Behold, your new police department. I'm not kidding. Universities are talking about disarming their police, and we'll talk about it, but I want you to see this image first. This comes from Evergreen State a couple of years ago. We all knew it was coming. We knew it was going to get worse, and now, it's getting worse. Look at this photo of these college extremists, whatever you want to call them, far left extremists, wielding baseball bats. How creepy. Look at this. Well, these people actually, apparently, there's a video where they actually hit a guy with a baseball bat. That's who's going to be policing your streets. This is what I mean. When I say morality policing, this is what you are going to get. Let me warn you now. What started at Evergreen made its way nationwide. The expansion. Listen to Brett Weinstein about how he talks about this. He warned about this. And yes, as soon as these people graduated and started getting jobs at these companies, lo and behold, these insane ideas began spreading. I won't stand for it. But I'll tell you what, this comes next. Take a look at the story. Portland State will disarm campus safety officers this fall. And what do you think comes next? A bunch of crazy far-left extremists with baseball bats walking around saying, no rap music. What is that dress? That looks like cultural appropriation. Whack with a baseball bat. You're not going to have accountable cops. Sorry, that won't be the case. Oregon Live reports. Portland State University announced Thursday that campus safety officers will no longer carry guns during patrol. The move comes as Portland nears 80 days of continuous protests against police violence and systemic racism. Students at Portland State have lobbied to get guns removed from campus security. It was one of the issues that caused students and supporters to shut down a governing board meeting at the school in 2016. In 2018, Navy veteran Jason Washington was killed by a campus police officer during a melee outside the Cheerful Tortoise. The killing of Washington, who was black, renewed calls to take guns away from campus safety. Willie Halliburton, the university's new campus safety chief, told the Oregonian Oregon Live that he believes disarming the officers needed to be done. We can do an effective job without weapons, he said. I know they're talented to do their jobs without the use of weapons. So let me back up a little second. They say 80 days of continuous protests in Portland. 80? Is that what we're at? Everyone just seems to be incrementing up the number. They're riots. They keep saying protests. Why? When these people show up with a baseball bat and smash up your house, they're going to say, oh, but they were humble. They were simply protesting. That wasn't a riot. It's a protest. It was a protest. That's what they'll say. Portland State. A Navy veteran, Jason Washington, was killed by a campus police officer. Okay. How many years have the police been armed? How many interactions do the police have with people at the university? And how many people have died? Maybe it's more than one, but because of this one, they're going to take the guns completely away from police. You see, if we're going to make changes, we need to actually understand what the problems are and figure out if they're actually problems. How many people have been saved because these officers are armed? What if someone plans, heaven forbid, a mass shooting? Well, then you might need someone who can protect you. What happens if a roving band of far-left extremists with baseball bats are romping about campus, smashing windows, and threatening people's lives, and unarmed police show up? They'll run away. They'll completely run away. Now, I'm not saying I want to see escalation with weapons, but there's a reason why police have weapons. Now, I'm not entirely opposed to this, to be fair. I think the issue is certain patrol, officers might, be disarmed in a sense, might have their, not carry weapons around with them, carry batons, tasers, pepper spray, but not, live ammunition. And then you have a special unit dispatch when the situation calls for it. I'm assuming that will still be the case, considering if someone did come in with a weapon, you'll end up seeing other departments dispatched. But I guess outside of my opinion on what we should do, there is a real concern for the security of the school and if someone is wielding a dangerous weapon, a baseball bat, a knife, or a gun. So, of course, the protesters, the rioters, the extremists get what they want. So I think when I see this, and I saw what happened at Evergreen, my prediction is simple. Evergreen was this unhinged protest where they shut things down and took over. It's expanded into the mainstream. It's now affecting every level. It's even in our government. 10% or more of the CDC signed a document demanding they declare racism a public health crisis nationwide. That's insane. And we've seen the violence nonstop for 80 days. They've taken it from the campus to the streets. So I've warned about morality policing. We've seen it in New York. My main segment was basically about morality policing. That the DA in Chicago is a presumption of dismissal, letting people go. New York did it. Portland is doing it. Fort Worth did it. And what happens after that? When they disband the police departments, what do you have? When they disarm the police departments, when they defund the police departments, their community policing looks like this. So what do you think is going to happen? What would you do if this group showed up to your house, knocked on the door, and you opened it, and they said, "Hey man, you're Mexican. We heard you playing hip hop. No, stop or else." And you say, "Hey man, I can listen to music." Smash. They smash your window. What happens when they confront you in the street? Like the guy, there's a video where a guy's like walking through the park and they're yelling at him, and he tells them basically to F off. They hit him with a baseball bat. You can barely tell what's going on. It's alleged. That's what happened. What happens when these people are romping around your neighborhood, wearing all black, and there's no police? What happens when they show up to your house and they throw a Molotov and there's no real police because they are the police? This is what I ask people. What do you think community policing means? What do you think it means when they defund and disarm and disband police? You realize somebody has to step up, and somebody wants to. Take a look at what these people do the moment they get threatened. They yell, "Help, help, call the police." And then the police actually show up to help them. In Seattle, when they were literally dancing on the highway and a couple women got hit, the police were immediately there to help them. They want the police. They like when the police give them what they want. They just don't want policing to negatively impact them. They want to be the police. They want the power. I think community policing means just this. Especially in places like Minneapolis, you might actually see very religious groups going around doing their community policing. And we've actually had the rise of many groups in New York that are, cultural police, essentially, neighborhood watch. They're not the same as in, they carry guns like cops or anything. But they've formed in response to culture clashes, and I mean literal violence. The Jewish community has, I forgot what it's called, the organization, but they have vehicles. It's like a neighborhood watch for their community. Why? Well, they were being attacked, and the police weren't protecting them. So they created their own community group. There's some potential good things about community policing for sure. The general idea being, over at this gym near me, where the officers actually arrested the gym owners, they had to bring in cops from other communities because the local cops were like, "I'm not going in there and arresting them. I don't want to be a pariah where I live. I'll have to leave. They'll kick me out. They'll never look me in the eyes again." So what did they do? They asked other people who don't live here to come in and do it. And that's a problem. It's good that locals say, "I am accountable to my community and I won't cross that line." That idea, I think, is fine. But think about it. That's exactly what we have. The police department near me is super close. They're not going to cross the line and violate someone's constitutional rights. They're going to be like, "I'll never go to the pizza joint again. They'll never sell me pizza." They're going to be like, "Dude, you're a jerk." So they bring in other people. I can respect that. But what we have here with these groups of people disarming police, with these people romping about in their universities, these are people who literally go to other people's neighborhoods to riot. We saw it in Chicago. Black Lives Matter entered a neighborhood, they got chased out. We saw it in Fort Collins. You enter a neighborhood, they got chased out. But in many areas, at the peak of the June riots in early June, outside groups went into other people's neighborhoods and demanded obedience. They rioted. They've done it in other cities. They show up randomly, they don't even live there. And they demand these jurisdictions give them the right to do whatever they want. Local communities aren't having it. And most of these communities are kind of, just regular people living their lives. That's why police are supposed to be impartial and accountable to your community. You go to your meetings, you vote. These people won't be because they're a part of a fringe cult, whatever. They've got crazy hair and baseball bats, and the cops are releasing them. So here's the big picture. Police will disarm deputies. Okay, it's coming. They're going to disarm their deputies. The deputies won't be able to protect themselves or fight back. The next thing they'll do is, if you can't defund the police, you demoralize them until they quit. And it's been happening. Cops are quitting. So what comes next for your neighborhood? Minneapolis disbanded their police. Seattle's lightly defunded their police. Police chief resigned. And about 129 departments have faced some kind of defunding. What comes next? Your community groups with baseball bats. They'll march to the streets and tell you what is right and what is wrong, regardless of the law. The law is what they think it is. And who's going to stop them? You got no police. They're defunded, and the cops aren't going to want to deal with the mob. They'll say, hey, man, what do you want us to do? What should we do about it? So I don't know. I know. I'd say we talk about this a lot. So it is what it is, I guess. I'll follow the news, and I'll bring it to you. Stick around. Next segment's coming up tomorrow at 10 a.m. on this channel, and I will see you all next time.